Breaking news. The first death from coronavirus here in the United States.
Overnight, a second death in the United States was announced. A Washington State man at the same hospital where the first victim died.
The state also confirms an outbreak at a long-term care facility. 2 people associated with the facility testing positive, and more than 50 patients and staff now being tested. At least 3 states, Washington, Oregon, and California, are now seeing cases of community spread.
The outbreak spreading across the U.S. More than 1,300 new cases in just the last 24 hours, and that's without testing fully up to speed. And in the city of Wuhan, where the outbreak began, patients now in isolation, all trains and planes out of that city halted just tonight. As we come on the air tonight, much of America shutting down.
Yeah, I'm just walking in my apartment right now. Huh? Canceled? The rest of the semester? For a chest cold? Bruh, this stuff is gonna pass over in like a week. I swear it only affects old people. Yeah, bruh, I'm over it. Hey, man, I'm gonna get back at you later, bro. I got stuff to do. All right, talk to you later. Bye.
This is an ABC News special report.
As we come on the air tonight, much of America shutting down. Late today, President Trump issuing new nationwide guidelines for Americans across this country in the fight against the coronavirus. The outbreak spreading across the U.S. More than 1,300 new cases in just the last 24 hours, and that's without testing fully up to speed. In total, more than 4,600 cases in 49 states, at least 82 deaths. Late today, President Trump acknowledging the coronavirus is not under control, urging Americans not to gather in groups larger than 10 and to avoid restaurants and bars. And he said the U.S. could be dealing...
It's like a melancholic moment. The loneliness starts to sink in. You start to feel separated from society, and the mind starts to grow weary and weak. Pulling you into the deepest, darkest void where you're unable to get out. Hearing the words mental illness, suffering, depression, it's like a heavy weight that grasps you by the ankles.
We have to talk about 2 things that you don't like.
And we know this can be mentally exhausting. It can be mentally draining.
We have to acknowledge mental health.
Mental health and suicide.
A conversation no one wants to have, but something that we all know of. A friend, a family member. You. We've all been through that dark hole. Some of us have gotten out. Many haven't.
The news that Hannah's brother and a mother's son, Tantan Zhang, took his life.
A 13-year-old girl in Tacoma, Washington, committed suicide by jumping off an interstate bridge.
Abby was dead. She had hanged herself on the clothing rod in her closet.
Fox 2 meteorologist Jessica Starr, a mom to 2 beautiful children ages 3 and 5, took her own life.
And then my daughter come home 2 weeks later and hangs herself in the closet.
When it comes to such a tragedy, the question on everyone's mind is, why? Where did we go wrong? Is this my fault? Why didn't I see this coming? For many, there's a reason. As for others, the answer will remain unknown.
When someone says, I want to commit suicide, it means they're feeling so terrible about their life, about what they've been through, that they don't want to be on the earth anymore. People need to understand that when it comes to suicide, it's not just in the moment. It's like, it's a continuous process. Like, you have to remind yourself, I don't want to do this. You have to remind yourself, I shouldn't do this.
People commit suicide every year. When we hear about suicide, it's the most heartbreaking news for anyone to find out. But one thing's for certain. The issue continuously repeats itself day in and day out. And it never ends.
We avoided the subject of suicide. I mean, studiously avoided it because we were afraid of copycat cases. But it turns out that's not the right answer either, because that creates a stigma.
What we're talking about is traumatic loss. And traumatic loss is not something that just goes away.
But suicide cases are disturbingly common in society. The reason behind a person's death, also common. Regardless of the reason, the numbers are alarming.
There are more than 800,000 suicides every year around the globe. Suicide accounts for more deaths globally than homicide and natural disaster combined.
It is also the second leading cause of death for people ages 10 through 34, the fourth leading cause among people ages 34 through 54, and the fifth leading cause among people ages 45 to 54.
It crosses the mind of everyone who's experienced moderate to severe depression. What's the final straw? What's that point where this mental balance sheet that people are doing tips them over in the direction of killing themselves?
I think it's so important to understand it's that the secrets that we hold are what really kill us.
My name is Charity Johnson Hamilton. I suffer from depression, and I used to have a lot of suicidal thoughts because of everything that I have dealt with in my life.
My name is Courtney Woods. I've been bullied my whole life about my weight. I was once told that my dad died because he didn't love me.
It started when I was 16. For some reason, I did not want to be here. I was really sad. I was hurting myself. I just wanted to shrivel up and dissolve into the earth.
Recently, I just got out of a relationship this past Thanksgiving, and it was terrible. It was really bad because I was miserable. I did so much. I put my all into this relationship. I did everything. I would cook for him, clean for him, take care of his children. And in the end, he told me that he didn't love me or want me or have anything to do with me anymore. It was very hurtful, and I didn't know what to do. And so in that relationship, I had tried to hurt myself a lot because when he found out about my suicide and depression, he told me I didn't have to be depressed about anything because I came from a good family.
I posted on social media that I don't want to be bothered. Phone started blowing up, so I cut it off and posted on social media that I didn't want to be here anymore. That got out to my brother. I cut my phone back on, he called, we talked, and yeah. I like to deal with my problems by myself. I coped with it alone. Probably not the best idea, but I did it. Here today.
Plenty of people commit suicide every year. Some of them show non-suicidal tendencies, which include self-injury and mutilation of the body.
I think cutting is a destructive behavior. They could hide it by cutting up their thighs instead of like, you know, the places you could see, like your wrist or, you know, their arm.
Often those who indulge in self-mutilation tend to use sharp objects like razors, knives, pins, glass, and even their own fingernails.
I smashed a glass bottle. It was a Martinelli's apple juice bottle, and I smashed it and took the glass pieces and cut myself and everything. I have even deeper cuts here on my wrist where I have a tattoo.
It was just slits across the wrist, sometimes the back of my leg with the razor.
I was talking to this girl, and she said that it's better to feel physical pain than emotional pain. And that really touched me because a lot of the time people are like, oh, it's easier for me to handle, you know, being cut or, you know, physical hurt, but then it's hard to handle emotional hurt.
Cutters usually hide all of the wounds and the scars that have built up. You might have someone in your life who's doing it that you don't even know is doing it.
I thought about cutting myself, but I didn't. I think when I think about suicide, I think of my family. I think of the people that I'm leaving behind. So I'll be ready to do it.
Suicidal thoughts have become rampant since the start of the pandemic. Kids, teens, young adults, and even the elderly committed suicide or experienced thoughts of suicide due to the entire country shutting down in order to prevent further spread of a lethal virus.
A well-known ER doctor here in New York who battled to save the lives of so many others. Her family now says she has taken her own life.
Emergency room visits for mental health issues have skyrocketed since the pandemic began. And doctors say the very rules to keep people safe from the virus are doing great damage when it comes to anxiety, depression, and even suicide.
During the pandemic in 2020, the numbers have risen to 25.5% in young adults suffering and 11% of all ages being affected.
This is a heartbreaking reality, but really it shouldn't come as a surprise.
COVID-19 has added layers of stress for people who may have already been dealing with depression or anxiety.
In this pandemic, it's been hard. You can't go to school, you can't escape, and most people don't come from best homes.
During the quarantine, I felt as though I was in a dark hole and there was no way to get out.
I'm cooped up in the room all day, 24/7, 7 days a week. There's nothing to do but think. You constantly do the same thing over and over again.
You can't go out to your friends, you can't do what you thought was fun, you can't go to the movies. So for them, they feel trapped. And because they are trapped, they want to release that.
I'm not good with isolation, so for me to be in one spot for so long, I didn't even let it happen. I was out and about, at parks, sitting at my best friend's house.
You either sleep or you laying down thinking. You don't think happy thoughts, you think dumbass thoughts.
I would put on this facade and pretend like everything was okay when really it wasn't. The pandemic was just making everything a tad bit harder to deal with.
It definitely handicapped it. It like put it on the back burner. I'm just a floater. I tend to float through the motions. So as long as I can float through the motions and nothing's too loud in my head, then I can keep it pushing.
Voluntarily admitted myself into a mental facility, and it was due to the fact that I had attempted suicide yet again. I had drunk some bleach that apparently wasn't really detrimental to my body, but it was very sickening. When I admitted myself into the hospital, I had thought that I was going to be okay and that everything was going to get better. But in reality, it just felt like I was suffering even more. The nurse had told me to never do that ever again, and that I was worth it, and that I shouldn't have to end my life over somebody that doesn't give a damn about me. And when they told me that, I started feeling better. And from that moment on, my focus was just to get out of the hospital because I know that I could do better for myself.
What we really need to see more of and give more contact for people is our peers who have gone through these situations, essentially who found ways to cope through seemingly the impossible.
It's extremely hard to not try to think about everything that happened to me. I had started back writing, just discussing my emotions and my feelings and writing little short stories about any and everything that I could come up with. And since I'm aspiring to be a screenwriter, I even went as far as writing a whole movie script and everything.
The thing that kept me going was probably the fear of what it would have been if I didn't keep going. I've been in that dark spot before, so I really just do anything to stay out of that spot. I literally cut a tree down just to not go back to that place.
So if someone told me that they wanted to commit suicide, I would take it very seriously. I would definitely sit down and have a conversation with them, whether at work or outside work, and I would call the suicide line.
You are your own counselor. You know you inside and out. You know what makes you tick, what makes your heart beat fast. You know what's gonna set you off. Until you are in tune with yourself, you should most definitely go look for help, but be in tune with yourself before you let somebody else tell you how to feel or tell you how to do what you need to do.
Your life is precious. You're still here for a reason, and you have a purpose, and you have to learn and understand what that purpose is. But you can't let the negative energy get to you because it will strip you and it will take you away.
It's better to talk than leave it in, because when you leave it in, it goes away, but it automatically comes back. When you're just laying down by yourself in a dark room and you just start thinking those same thoughts again, that's when you find somebody that you can trust that's not going to judge you, and you talk it out.
We have to normalize mental health check-ins. That can be with family, friends, or even, of course, seeking professional help if you have the means and resources to do that.
We should inculcate mental health in our lives. Not a lot of people pay attention to the mental aspect of your life, and when you keep suppressing that, ignoring it, when you become an adult, you become bitter. Starting from a young age, it's very important to inculcate mental health in your children. You always have to ask them, you know, you happy, are you okay? That should be like #1 priority, as well as, you know, taking care of your physical. Always take care of your mental.
My eyes are open to it. And my prayer for everyone watching is that it never touches you, and that if you see this and you think about it, you get help for anyone that you can.
Convince them to follow me to a walk-in mental institution so we can handle that, because suicide is something you shouldn't play with.
I know you think I got it all figured out, 'cause I walk around like my head's in the clouds, but I'm just a boy with his heart pouring out of his head. I wish that you could see the pain that I've seen and all of the times I spent being not me. I hope you know that it's not always happy in my head, 'cause I don't know the perfect road to go down, but I know I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to be okay. I'm trying my best, but every day it's so hard. And I'm holding my breath. Holding my breath till I can say all of the words I wanna say from my heart. if you really wanted, I could let you inside. It's been so long and I've got nothing left to hide. Would you believe me if I told you that I've got flaws? Now it's time to let the curtains unfold and tell all the stories that I didn't want told. Let it out so I unburden my soul. I won't stop, 'cause I don't know the perfect road to go down, but I know.
If you're experiencing suicidal thoughts, contact the National Suicide Hotline.
I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to be okay. I'm trying my best, but every day it's so hard. And I'm holding my breath. I'm holding my breath till I can say all of the words I want to say from my heart.